Hi, I'm Garbreak1, and this is Midgardia's Cool Crowdfunding Show. I'm here today with Antonio D'Amico. How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. You're here today to talk about Hexbound, so why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
I am. I'm here to talk about my new project. It's published by Hitpoint Press, and it's called, as you said, Hexbound. It's a witchy D&D 5e supplement that is all about bringing witches as a concept and as lore and as everything into the world of 5e, which is high time. I believe. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've talked about there's a lot of witch classes out there, but I noticed that you've taken a different path to bringing witches to 5e. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. As you said, if you kick a rock, you will find a witch class. It's fine. You will get it. I don't think that I would bring anything new to the table by telling you that I'm doing a witch class. And I, as a player, because I do play D&D too much, some may say. Some they are right when they say that, but yeah, absolutely. I do play D&D too much. What I like better is subclasses, to be completely honest. And as I DM a lot, I play a lot as a player, and I find it much easier for any DM to accept a homebrew subclass than a homebrew class. And I also find it very, very way less likely of that class being balanced. So when I was making Hexbound, which has been years in the making, I had this idea of which subclasses, which means all these subclasses share the same lore. They're all witches. They just have widely different ways of being witches. So you could have, with this concept, I believe it's what works best for players and what works best for GMs, because what ends up happening is that if you're a GM running a witch themed campaign or a campaign or just an arc with witches, you don't want only squishy spellcasters as the only type of enemy. What you get with this is witches that can cast spells and brew potions and do witchy things with familiars and stuff like that. And you get witches that punch spirits into enemies. And you get witches that have you get barbarian witches, you get paladin witches, you get monk witches. That's what I thought would be best for a GM standpoint and from a player standpoint. So these are how witch subclasses became a thing. They all share the same lore. They all have the same basic idea of witchcraft. They're just basically imagine it as I guess a good simile would be martial arts. Like every, I don't know, Taekwondo and karate are all martial arts, but they're completely different from each other. That's basically the same vibe.
Right, right. I I like that.
Thank you.
I've
I
played a
like it
lot
too.
of I've played a lot of third party classes in my time, and some of them are uh, not the most balanced. Uh,
It is not yeah, we know. We don't say it, but yeah, there's a side of that. So yeah,
balance is hard, man.
it sure is. Some official stuff is not balanced. So which end do you balance with? You know what I mean? You're like, oh, do you go high? Because it might be the same power level as this subclass, but as this class, or but is very much stomping on this other class that is also an official class. So yes, it is very. It's an art to strike a balance.
Yeah, I mean you're not gonna balance against the ranger because
Exactly. You don't want it to be too overpowered like the Ranger, who everybody loves it and everyone is very happy.
yeah,
So yeah,
we all have a gentleman's agreement not to play the ranger because we just argue over it. That's why nobody plays rangers.
exactly. Because rogues are a thing. Why would you?
um, so can you tell me about the monk witch?
Yes. Everyone is so into that one, and I understand because it's really fun. So I'm not gonna bore you with deep lore, but the basis of witchcraft as presented in here, I'm a Spaniard. I'm from Spain. It is very much based on the tradition of witchcraft in Spain. So witches in my setting, no, it's not a setting, but in this book, basically are can be spellcasters, but are people that take their powers from the summoning of spirits. You would say that a warlock takes their power from a pact with a patron. You would say that a cleric does it from a god or a domain. Because people always get mad if you don't do that specific distinction that you don't have to have a god. A paladin gets it from an oath. A wizard gets it from studying. Sorcerer gets it from nepotism, and witches get it from summoning spirits. That can take any form, and spirit can mean pretty much a lot of different things. So a monk witch, what basically they do is they summon spirits to their fists or weapons, monk weapons, and as they blow, as they threat blows with a foe, rhymed, which means it's right. They weaken them by literally like possessing that foe by punching it. I always explain it by monks can punch ghosts, but what if you could punch ghosts into people? That is the basis of that is the high thought and the high concept behind that subclass. So that's like the basis of it. It's a lot of like it's a class that deals with a mechanic that I believe is very much underappreciated and underused, which is exhaustion. And it kind of takes that I fail to remember now the ability specifically that is that ability that a monk can do. I believe it's stillness of mind.
I think
right.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, the one where they take away a charm effect on them. It kind of riffs off of that and makes it a more like core part of the subclass. They can pass like a debuff to an enemy, like from them to an enemy. If they're poisoned, they can poison someone else, which means that it might behoove you to poison your friend, who in turn might poison someone else. You know what I mean? Like, I think that in terms of pure raw mechanics, it's a really fun subclass because it makes you think completely different as to how you would play anything, really.
That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you.
Just imagining a monk getting like stung by a giant scorpion and then just like hawking the poison right back at it.
Yeah. You. Yeah. That's the core of the subclass is you. I can punch ghost into people. That's the base of it. And everyone gets like as I said, all witches are about summoning ghosts or getting magic through the summoning. And I say ghosts. I shouldn't. It's very clear that it's spirits because it could be the spirits of nature. It could be literal ghosts. But all witches are based on that. They all riff on that same concept.
Right. Is there a artificer witch subclass?
No, because we can't.
Yes. Because it's not in the SRD.
Exactly. Everyone, I feel very bad every time this question has come up so much since I've been like promoting my project is I can't wait to see the artificer. And I'm like, well, you're gonna wait a while. You're gonna wait a long time because I can't. I would love to do it. I can't do it because it's not in the SRD.
Yeah.
We have to wait for 6E for that, I guess.
Yeah, or talk to like Kibbles Tasty and make one for his artificer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, that would be great. You should do that.
Maybe. That's actually a good idea. Should we?
We'll see.
Much food for thought. Yeah.
Stretch goals.
There are many. There are subclasses of stretch goals and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, why don't you tell us about stretch goals then?
Well, we're starting off with 4 subclasses, which we believed. I say we. I wrote this. It just sounds mean, weird to say I. But we're starting off with 4 subclasses. They are, I believe, they are very like. What I wanted with these 4 was to give players and GMs the ability to play a witch's witch, like whatever you think of a witch, like the baseline of that, you get that. Those are the 2 first ones, and then the 2 other ones are very much not what you think of when you think witches. One of them being the monk, you know what I mean? But then, and in stretch goals, we do have other subclasses that we would love to include in the book, and I guess that falls into the Kickstarter campaign itself. See how well it does, and see if we can do it. There's other stretch goals. There's like the book is there's too much stuff in this book. We have 3 adventures in it. There's more adventures as stretch goals. We have stretch goals for the app, which is another thing that we can get into. We have stretch goals for so many things that hard to recount, and they will be revealed as the campaign goes on, which means basically at the beginning of the campaign, we have 3 stretch goals revealed. As if we pass those, more stretch goals will be revealed, basically.
Nice. So, why don't you tell me about the app?
Yeah, I'm so excited about that. I'm very excited about that. Well, when I was making Hexbound, I started to make Hexbound when I started to make my first supplement, which was Dragon Stew. When I was doing that one, I was also writing Hexbound at the same time because I can't keep my brain in one thing. I was like, oh, I love the idea of cooking monsters, and that was Dragon Stew. And then I was like, but I want witches, and I want witches in a way that hasn't been done from what I've seen in homebrew. And I was running both at the same time. And when Dragons 2 came out and the success completely blew me away, I was not expecting in the slightest what happened with Dragons 2. When it came time to design what Hexbound will be or will come to be, I told myself, I want this to have something that is completely different from any other thing I've ever seen. Like, I want to make a great book, and I wanted to have a thing that I have not seen in this medium yet, and that can bring something new to the table. And that's how the Arcane app started. I come from video games. That's my like my professional experience comes from video games. I worked as a concept artist for years, and now I keep working. I'm still in video games, but what I'm saying is that was the beginning of that, and I believe that like what really excited me was to bring the know-how of video games into D&D, if that makes sense. And that's how the idea of the app started. This is a very dumb thing to say, and I'm particularly not happy with Harry Potter right now, but I will say that that image of the photos and Harry Potter moving, that has stuck in my brain forever, and that was the baseline from which the Arcane app came out, like into my head. Was what if through your phone you could see the illustrations of a book moving around as if they came to life? And from that, I was like, well, it can't just be that. It can't just be pretty to look at. It has to serve a purpose. So that's how the idea of just clicking on the illustration and rolling directly from there instead of like constantly flipping, because I don't know, if you run from a book, it's insufferable. If you constantly flipping from one page to the other, I was like, what if you just roll on the app, and that way you can run those fights that you want to run with like 500 minions. Well, not 500. Don't do that. Don't. But 10, 15. You know what I mean? Something like that. That becomes much more doable. And if you're like me, let's say it nicely and say mathematically challenged, it's a compliment for me. If you're like me, that helps you like actually run this thing in a dynamic, fun way, instead of like, okay, so the kobold attacks, okay, 5, instead of that for 15 enemies, just a roll,
How does pack tactics work again?
Exactly. Yeah. And you have more than like stat blocks. You get all information on subclasses, you get all spells, you get 1,000 different things, which means that this is good for DMs and for players at the same time. It's not just a DM thing. If you have like 5,000 spells to keep track of, instead of flipping pages constantly, maybe you could just have it on your phone,
So
that's how the app was born.
Yeah, so is it just all the information from this supplement in an app, or?
Yes, for now.
And maybe the SRD that there's
not the SRD yet. It is something that basically we're looking at how Hexbound performs, because I'm very much aware that this could grow in 1,000 different ways, and I wanted to see it grow, but we need support for that. So because that's the thing about like it's very easy to like sit around and be like, I want to do something that no one has done. Maybe there's a reason why. It's because making an app is expensive, and like doing all that work is like time consuming and expensive. So that's why I believe that that's why it's a Kickstarter. That's why we're like asking for people to help us make this, because I do believe that it could like, I know that this sounds so knockoff Steve Jobs, but I do believe that it could change like a lot of ways of how you play. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would make it easier to play like on a train or something.
I feel so as well. Yeah, absolutely. And it can grow so much, so we'll see.
Yeah, not that most people are doing very much traveling these days, but
No. We're really not looking towards the traveling D&D market. It's not a market that we're trying to court to today. Someday. But not today.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in airports. It could have been a lot more fun if I could play D&D.
I also feel this way. I have also spent a lot of time in airports. Yeah, as an immigrant, I have as well. And yeah, it will be so much easier to be like, I am walking around and I can talk to you and play, instead of like, let me sit at my table for, I don't know, I play for 6 hours, so it's a time commitment, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get about 3 hours in and I start getting antsy.
Oh no, not me. No, I sit down, I'm like, could we do 12? Could this be a thing? Could we?
So, what's the like basic buy-in cost for getting the PDF? Normally I just say it, but the Kickstarter isn't up until this video comes out. So,
So base price for the prices are going to be different in Kickstarter, because we do want to reward people that have like believed in this project from the beginning. So it won't be like an insane jump, but we're looking for a digital copy, and the app is completely free. So you get the app, whatever you do, but you get a digital copy, so a PDF for $20 on Kickstarter. You get it for 30 in retail price. So it's a $10 a $10 decrease if you do it on Kickstarter. We have a set of minis available. We're starting with a set of minis available, plus the book, plus the app. That will be 30 on Kickstarter and 40 in retail. And when we're talking physical hardcover, like the actual book and physical stuff, plus the digital book, plus the app, that's $50, 60 retail. And then we have I'm so excited to see this. I have a hard time believing that we have this. We have a like collector's edition with like its own different cover and 1,000 different things that we want to do to it. Like, we want to have gold foil. We're looking into all those options, but we have a collector's edition that has too many things in it. It has collector's edition, has a pack of reference cards, it has the set of minis, it has of course a digital copy of the book, and the app that on Kickstarter is 100, and it retails for 130. So those are the prices of our starting pledge tiers. As we unlock more stuff, we want to make more pledge tiers, but that depends on what we unlock through stretch goals. I mean,
right, absolutely.
hmm.
Um, I know this is kind of like stepping on the toes of the app a bit, but are you looking towards like Roll20 compendium support as a far off stretch goal, or?
I'm not absolutely not discounting anything. I believe that Roll20. I believe that the app and Roll20 coexist completely. I use Roll20 regularly. I love their content. I love their stuff. I don't believe that the app steps on its. I mean, and of course, Roll20 does math too, but I believe that like Roll20 doesn't have a corner on the mobile market in the slightest. And to me, there's a completely different thing in that you can like, this is a thing that both like makes sense for someone that has the book, and the app works in digital too. You can hold it up to your screen. So I'm not absolutely not discounting it. It is not on our plans right now. I don't know if it will happen, but
Okay.
I'm not. It's not because the app is here that I'm discounting it. No,
Yeah, all
I
right.
think that it's on its own.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, is there anything else you'd like to highlight about the project aside from the fact that the color scheme looks like Waluigi?
It does look like Waluigi. I believe that's a pretty strong. I don't know. Like, you're not
It,
gonna buy the book that looks like Waluigi, really? Okay,
it's a strong point in
what a
its
choice.
favor.
Yeah.
Look, he didn't get into
I,
Smash.
I'm gonna be really cheesy, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna highlight about my project that it's truly a labor of love. I wrote the thing and I illustrated the thing. I do both. This has been going on for like ages. I'm just so. First of all, I'm blown away, of course, because I'm always blown away by like the reaction of people and seeing the art and seeing the ideas and like resonating with their ideas. I've had people like send me their witches before the subclasses were out. Like, oh, I just think that it will be cool if it has this, and like I'm very happy that the love and the passion poured into this project is resonating with people as much as it is. I only hope that I don't hope that because I promised that I will make it my mission, just like I did it with Dragons 2, to make it as good as it could ever be. And I would highlight up like that's what I would highlight about it. I would highlight that it really was a labor of love, and I'm really excited for people to see it. Of course, like I can talk about like basic like what you get in the book, which I believe is a great deal because I've seen a lot of books. I think that like 3 adventures is a great deal. I think that familiars, like specifically new familiars with a witchy twist, it's a good deal. I think that completely new monsters, we don't use a single SRD monster, is a good deal. I believe that the way that NPCs are worked into the book, like the amount of information that you get for playing those NPCs, is a good deal. The subclasses, like I think that we have 30 plus magic items and we plan to add more. So all of them are illustrated. Every single NPC is illustrated. I do believe that the book stands on its own. So I think that all I would say as a selling point, like as a real selling point, is that it truly was like a passion project from the beginning. And I'm just excited for people to see 5e witches in a way that has never been done before. And that will be my selling point.
Absolutely. And I just want to highlight the like it comes with adventures because I have played third-party classes and they sound really cool until I'm like, "Oh yeah, right. These features don't actually interact with any standard 5e stuff."
Exactly.
Whoops.
Yeah. I cannot. This is not me dissing anybody. You can do whatever you want with your book, but I cannot imagine releasing a book without adventures. Dragon Suit came with 2. To me, it's like crucial because it's like giving someone a wrench and be like, find a thing to use it on. Like, no, give people like something to like springboard off of. My dream would be to honestly like people like using the adventures to create their own witch themed campaign, and all the adventures have witches in them. They can be good or they can be bad. Yeah, absolutely. The adventures has to have, like, to me, the adventures was not even a question. It had to have adventures, and I spread it out pretty evenly. I was like, okay, we needed something for babies, like beginning. We need something middle ground. We need something a little bit more high level. And one of the biggest things for me for adventures, I don't know, this is not me like telling anybody like how, like what is good D&D. I love dungeon crawls as much as the next Munchkin. It's fun. It's the core of D&D. Dungeon, I would not play a campaign that had no dungeons, you know what I mean? But I also won't play a campaign that only has dungeons all the time. So when I was writing this, I was like, okay, I want a dungeon crawl. I want a real baseline dungeon crawl, but I put like roleplay elements into it. I put like decisions into it. And also I said, okay, the next adventure doesn't have to be a dungeon crawl. We don't have to have 7 dungeons in here because people have 1,000 different dungeons that they can pick for. What if we give something better? So, or not better, different. So Hexbound, the second adventure is a murder mystery that happens in a circus. And the third adventure is a high stakes social encounter in a masked ball, like court intrigue. And I really wanted that because when I'm running a campaign, I can once again kick a rock and find 700 different dungeons. But if I want a murder mystery or if I want a masked ball social encounter like court intrigue, you have to fight to get those. So I wanted that, and I also wanted those to have like options for combat and options for not dungeoneering, but options for exploration in them, because there are players at the table that will enjoy the RPing and will enjoy the talking to NPC, and there are players at the table that will enjoy bashing stuff over their head with a chair, and those 2 players should be catered to. So yeah.
I'm glad to hear about the masked ball. I've had a outline sitting for an adventure like that for like a year, and I've done nothing with it. So I'm glad to see somebody doing that.
I have no shame. If you have played Dragon Age Inquisition, you will know what this adventure is based on, because that quest in that game changed my life. I did not know that we could do that in games. So a springboard for that specific adventure is very much Halam Sharal, Dragon Age Inquisition. So yeah, very, very mass ball, very court intrigue.
I have some friends who are very much into Dragon Age, but despite being from the same province as BioWare, I've never actually played them.
They are fantastic. You should. They're my favorite.
Yeah, and like you were saying about like adventures being important, one of the things I repeatedly tell, publishers, like, hey, does your do you have a quick start for this? Do you have a thing that I can look at and go, this is what I do with your game? Because I own a lot of games, and I have a lot that I'm just like, okay, cool, but like,
I don't want to read a book.
Yeah. I mean, I like reading them. I used to read them for fun. But like, what do I do with this? I have a Serial Experiments Lane tabletop RPG supplement, and it's like, what do I? Yeah, like, cool, but what do I? Yeah. What do I run?
um I guess like this is a good thing to talk about because I'm very like I'm used to people knowing from Dragons to how I do things, and it is somewhat different. I do not write adventures in the way, well, I do, but like not in the way that like the typical adventure is run. Because if I'm buying something, I want that something to be ready to run now. I want to read over it and be like, okay, I get it. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So in Hexbound, you have battle maps for every single possible combat encounter, hand drawn. You have all monsters in the book. You have everything because I want the adventure to be as easy and as prep free as possible. My goal is for you to read the adventure. If you want to, I don't even think that you need to read it all the way through in the first session. Read it at some point, but if you read the adventure, you have what it takes to run this thing. So yeah, to me, it is necessary to make those things easier for someone to run it because there's a lot of competition in this part, and you're not gonna win people over by telling them it's gonna be so hard to run my game. You will love it, you know.
Yeah, not naming any names on that one.
No, I'm really not thinking of someone in particular, but I'm saying like to me, if I'm buying something, I want something that I can run easily, basically.
Yeah, I'm infamous for not reading adventures all the way through before I run them, so this is great news for me.
That's fine. I am too scared to do that. I am very much let's prep every single thing that could ever come up kind of DM.
Yeah, I'm the amount of times we've been like, oh yeah, there's this thing only mentioned in a sidebar like 5 pages after the encounter.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, and also the werewolves are nice. Oh, that's fantastic to have at the end of your like 5 pages after your encounter. Yeah, I'm glad
Yeah,
that I know that now after they killed them.
thanks for that. Yeah. Well, yeah. Anything else you'd like to talk about while you're here?
Not much. I can only tell people that I hope you like it if you do check it out. Uh, we live in the future, and the Kickstarter is now out, so you can go check it out. You can go see the video. We put too much work into that video for you not to see it, so please do see it because it took a long time. So you can go check the video. You can go like if you type hexbound.com, you will fall into the Kickstarter. If not, you know what a Google is. You have heard of the Google before. You can type Hexbound. You will find Hexbound on Kickstarter in first result. Or you can go to my Twitter. I talk about it a lot. My Twitter is Antodemico at Antodemico. How that sounds.
And there will
It's
be a
spelled
link.
how it sounds.
And there will be a link to it right below this video. So, yeah, Antonio, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
And for everybody watching at home, have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye bye.